Hi, my name is Shania, and this is my person-centered plan presentation. So my client's name is Lana Dela Cruz, and some of her family members consist of her husband, her son, sister-in-law who lives close to her, as well as family who lives in the Philippines, and they're all very supportive, and her husband and sister-in-law especially wish to help her receive services. Her current occupation is a stay-at-home mother, and she's interested in sewing and spending time with her family. Some points that the client wishes to discuss are that she isn't fluent in English, she has recently moved to the United States from the Philippines, she's still in the process of getting her U.S. visa and is currently here because of her green card through her husband. She doesn't have access to transportation because she doesn't have her driver's license and there aren't many transportation options in her area. She's looking for a flexible job to put money towards her family and surgery for the hernia she has, and she has a high school degree. Some preferences and wishes that she would like to amplify in her plan is that she is a Roman Catholic who is part of the Filipino, Asian, and Pacific Islander community. Her main language that she speaks is Tagalog, which is the language spoken in the Philippines, but she also understands English. She'd prefer to live in the downtown area of the town that she lives in because it is closer to means of transportation and any stores or services that she would like easy access to. She likes to spend her day taking care of her child, but would like to work at a place that gives her flexible hours so she has more time to spend with her family. She would like to be included in the community with a group of people who understand her experiences and who she can talk to and relate to about her immigration story. She likes spending time with her family, not just her immediate family, but extended families through her husband. She doesn't have gender preferences for the most part, but she would prefer to spend time with predominantly women. And she hopes to find a job that will allow her to help her husband and child financially, but would also allow her to be as present in her child's life as possible. Some further preferences and wishes for the client are that she fears that she won't be able to help financially support herself and her family, not just her immediate family like her son and her husband, but also she would like to give back to her family that is still in the Philippines. She would prefer to have access to English lessons and future surgery to get her hernia removed. And some of her health concerns mainly involve her getting a job that doesn't put unnecessary strain on her body because of her hernia. And the most important people in the client's life are her husband and child, but other allies include her sister-in-law and her family. Some of the client's strengths and resources are that the client has a very close bond with her family in her home country. Although they aren't able to be there physically, they always support the client by calling her and messaging her frequently. The client also has a close bond with her husband's side of the family, as most of her husband's side of the family lives in surrounding towns and they don't hesitate to reach out and help the client. The client's husband also has a lot of connections within the community because he's been working at his job for many years and has met a lot of people through that job. The client's sister-in-law works for her town's city hall office, and not only does she have connections with her city hall and the people who work there, but also she has connections with the client's city hall office. And the client also has years of experience in both tailoring and retail, because when she was still in the Philippines, she worked in her family's sewing company. Some of the supports that the client has are that her husband provides emotional and financial support, as well as her sister-in-law, and the client's former employers are also willing to write recommendation letters if she needs them, and all of her family, including her family who are in her who's in her home country, and her extended family who live in the surrounding towns, also provide a lot of emotional support for her. The client's current inclusion in the community is practically non-existent due to the fact that she's a stay-at-home mother. She mostly stays at home taking care of her child, and when she's not doing that, she likes to sew clothes for her loved ones, given her background with textile and sewing. And the client wishes to be more included in the community. So one of the client's goals is to find employment that applies to her needs, such as flexible hours, decent pay, and is sufficient for a person who doesn't speak fluent English and doesn't involve excessive physical strain, and also doesn't require the client to come in contact with latex because she's allergic to it. And the objectives of this goal are to find the client a job with flexible hours, sign the client up for English lessons, find inexpensive childcare, which is sort of a lower priority for her, but would help the client with getting a job, so it would be easier to find a person to take care of her child while she and her husband are at work. To plan for the client to eventually have surgery for her hernia, and then enroll the client in driver's education to help with the fact that she has limited transportation options. Her husband drives, but he has his own job and needs and can't always be there to help transport his wife, but he does whenever possible. Her second goal is to introduce herself to people in the community that the client can relate to and create friendships with, and ideally the client would like to connect with people she shares common interests with, such as the Asian community, new mothers, immigrants, etc. And the objectives of this goal are to look into the community, any community events that pertain to the client's interests, to discover groups catered to new mothers, and to find events such as concerts or fairs or any fun classes that the client can meet new friends at. Some of the supports of specifically catered to each goal are that, well, for the first goal, the staff can help the client create a plan to advise the client of steps she needs to take to accomplish her goals, and as well as help the client directly with accomplishing these goals, while on the other hand, her supports that are closer to her personally, like her family, can provide her with emotional support and motivate her to continue her path for accomplishing her goals. The intervention and supports for the second goal are pretty similar, such as the staff working directly with the client would help provide the services to the client directly, whereas her more personal supports help her emotionally. Now the barriers for Goal 1, the services and activities that need to be done for this goal are to find a job for the client to support herself and her family, to get surgery for the client's hernia, and to get lessons to improve the client's English, and to also enroll the client in driver's education. A healthcare provider will be responsible for the surgery, of course. A local adult class program is responsible for her English lessons, and her nearest driving school is responsible for driver's education. The client's surgery will be provided through a scheduled appointment, and the client's English classes can be done through frequent in-person meetings, and the client's driver's education will be done in person. The services will be provided at various locations. The surgery will, of course, be provided in a hospital or a clinic. The English classes will be provided through meetings in a local town hall, and driver's education will be provided at her home with an instructor traveling to her, so she doesn't need to worry about finding transportation to get her there. As for the duration of services, it will take about a month for making an appointment and actually following through with her surgery to get her hernia removed, 3 months for English lessons, and 2.5 months for driver's education. The expected start dates are January 12th, 2022 for her hernia appointment, April 4th, 2022 for the client's English lessons, and I'm sorry, I went back and tweaked the expected start dates because I realized I put them in wrong, but the expected start dates for the services are January 12th, 2023 for the hernia appointment, April 4th, 2023 for English lessons, and August 24th, 2023 for driver's education. And as for who will monitor the services, the client's husband and sister-in-law will take turns monitoring the services to ensure that each is completed appropriately. As for the barriers for the second goal, the services that need to be done for this goal is to research and connect with local organizations or community leaders to talk about the client's ability to join a group or participate in any events or activities that are lined up. The services will be provided by group members or a single group leader in charge of hosting the particular event or activity. The services will be provided at different locations such as parks, picnic areas, town centers, and private venues. The duration of services are to be determined. The length of time it will take the client to make friends can't necessarily be determined and is up to the client, depending on if the client meets anyone that she is interested in forming friendships with. And that is the reason why there isn't an expected start date per se. It's all about finding what activities or events the client would be interested in going to and going from there. The client's husband will also take turns accompanying the client to community events and support groups to determine if certain events are a good fit for the client. And that is my presentation. Thank you for watching.